Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF.
Welcome to Real Agriculture's Pulse School series. I'm Kara Oosterhuis. In this episode, I talked to Lyle Jensen, who is an agronomist with AgroPlus in Lethbridge, Alberta. Lyle and I go into a field of peas that has been recently seeded and dig around, talk about some of the things you're going to want to be looking out for as soon as those peas have been seeded. Check out the conversation now.
Yeah, well, first thing you're going to want to look for is obviously was the seed seeded at the proper depth and into moisture. And after a few days, if that is the case, we should start seeing germination. Now, depending on the weather conditions over the next week, we'll kind of determine when we see emergence. Right now, obviously, this has just been seeded a few days ago. We have no emergence yet. But typically, the first thing we're going to be really worried about for after emergence is going to be pea leaf weevil. And for the most part, we've been pretty lucky the last few years. There's been pretty minor feeding damage in this geography anyways. And the first thing we're going to be looking for really is just the stereotypical paper cut kind of notching on those leaves. And once you see that, there used to be several thresholds were established for. So many plants with so many notches might be worth spraying. The more modern practice now is that it's just not really worth spraying at all. It's more of a revenge spraying. Your most effective treatment for pea leaf weevil continues to be using a proper seed treatment with a residual insecticide to help control those. Typically, we're not too terribly worried about wireworm when it comes to peas, although it can be a factor occasionally, sometimes especially in lentils. I've seen it be a problem. Cutworm can also be a problem, but not as commonly as in canola or sometimes in cereals. So those are other things to keep a lookout on. Typically with wireworm, with really heavy damage, you would see the plant would remain standing upright, but would basically become sick and start to die. With cutworm, the plant will be cut off at the soil surface, depending on the exact species of cutworm, and there is several species in this area.
Now, do you see any of this feeding in the seed right away?
Sometimes with wireworms you can get feeding on the seed, especially in cereals, but that's really about the only thing you'll see on the seed right away.
Okay, and what else are you looking for as far as even you're digging around looking for moisture, germination? What does that initial germination look like?
You're basically just going to see the shoots start coming out of the seed and start heading downwards for the root and up, obviously, for the above ground growth. So peas are relatively frost tolerant. They can handle a pretty good dose of frost if we do happen to get that in the next few weeks, but you might still see a little bit of damage in some of the low areas of the field if that happens.
Do they grow through that damage typically?
They typically do. Peas are usually pretty tough, which is one of the reasons why they're one of the first crops we seed in this area.